Well, Ophelia, I will never forget it. Never. I had just hit my bottom when it came to drugs and alcohol and the diseases of more, and I finally went into recovery at 1991. And Edward had already been in the program of recovery for like about 3 years. So I was about 6 months and I was in this recovery house. It was a co-ed recovery house. I just come from a treatment center for women where I kind of learned like how to frickin' survive without, the AIDS of things, you know what I mean? And I remember in the treatment center, they told us ladies that the first thing that will come back is our hormones, if you know what I mean. Like to stay away from guys for like a year. So one day I went with my girlfriends in downtown Vancouver and we went to an NA meeting in the West End or something. And it was kind of a mix, queer straight meetings type of thing back then. And they asked me to share and I would, do my diatribe of recovery and stuff. And I was stealth. I never told anybody that I was trans. And this meeting was packed and I guess Edward was there because when he finally asked me out for lunch, which was another 6 months, because he was trying to get me to go before that. And I said, I have to have a year of recovery. Go away, go away. And at my 1 year cake at this recovery house, I'm looking down at the people talking, as I'm talking, giving my, birthday cake talk type of thing. And I can see him with his leather jacket and he had his Celtic tattoos and it's like, oh, here, I'll show you a picture. He was like really, really cute. Like it was so hard for me to not, not do what my recovery and my sponsors told me. And especially because I didn't know that anything about that he knew if I was trans or anybody knew. So like a year sober, he says, okay, I want to take you out on a date. So we went on a date and he said that he knew I was trans and I told him he was crazy that I wasn't. And this is where the chaser stuff comes in. All of you girls know about that. He was going, oh my God, he says, I've wanted all the time, like to be, to be with somebody that was in recovery. And it's like, I've only been with trans girls, in a transaction type of thing. And he was always, he was a serial monogamous with cisgender heteronormative stuff, right? He told me that he knew I was trans by the first time. He was at that meeting in the West End. And he says, as soon as I talked, he could tell, the boy's noise and my voice, a little giveaway type of thing. And I was just like, oh my God, he's like saying all of the top 10 things that we don't want to hear about. But he's trying to be honest, right? And I'm trying to think like, well, maybe this is how you do it. So I finally said, okay, yeah, it's true. It's like, and I haven't had the bottom surgery. And he was like, oh, good. So, I'd like to say that it's like this beautiful fairy tale. And it was in a way, he was the first man in recovery, that wasn't a transaction up until then. So I was like 29 at the time when we were living together. I waited another 6 months until we lived together. And I moved out of the recovery house with a girlfriend. And then we played house for like about a year and a half. And we were common law. We had our own little ceremony and stuff with friends. And oh my God, it was like the hardest thing to have a relationship. The first relationships are so hard, right, for any of us. And so I was catching up, like I should have been doing this stuff, in like middle school and stuff. I'd be like hanging onto his leg going, please don't leave me and stuff like that. He'd leave and then it's like the next day he'd be, weeping at the front door with roses and stuff and I'd be slamming the door, go away. I woke up in the middle of the night, we were having a break and I heard some whimpering in the hallway and I thought, oh God, is he out in the hallway like trying to get me back again? And I went to the hallway and I was listening and I was hearing this, Edward, don't leave me. And then this other voice would go, blah, 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 blah. And it was my neighbors imitating us fighting. It was just, I just sneaked back into bed and put the covers over my head and I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. So the next time we were at couple counseling because we were trying to mend it. And I realized that I wanted to have the bottom surgery by that time too. And he actually held my hands and said, Marty, don't I have a say in this? Like he was like trying to stop me. Like a women's right to choose stuff was like out the window, like talk about crazy, eh? And I didn't think that I would love again, right? But I thought, no, I'm not going to dim my light. I have to. And it was the hardest thing I ever did was to let go of him. And I remember at the last couple counselor session that we did, we left the couple counseling session, and I went to go to the bus, and he went to the car, and he slammed his hand on the hood of the car, and he said, "It's no fair." He said, "I had to do all the hard work, and somebody's going to get the good stuff." And unfortunately, Edward ended up moving back east, and we kind of stayed in touch every now and then. He became quite a famous director in Canadian film, and he had like the food shows, you know, kind of those food shows, but Canadian versions. The Great Bake Off, I think he was part of. He directed that and was part of that, and he did really well for himself. He got married and raised two kids of this woman's. So he was a stepfather. And but unfortunately, he started socially drinking again, and his liver was not good, right? And he ended up dying from cirrhosis of the liver in 2020. So, love you, Edward. Thank you for teaching me how to be with somebody.